Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chem 170 with your host, me, Dr. White. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Chem 170 Summer 2024. Wow, where's this year gone? All right, this is Chem Organic Chemistry. Relax. It's not that bad. But let me tell you a little about myself. I'm an organic chemist. Yes, I am. And I got my undergraduate degree at Illinois Institute of Technology. I got my PhD in synthetic organic chemistry from Michigan State. Go green, go white, for those who know Michigan State. And then was a postdoctoral fellow for a year and a half at University of Illinois, Chicago. And then I went into the chemical industry. And for many decades, yes, decades, you can tell, but anyways, many decades, I was a senior research and development manager at a couple of different international chemical companies. I have 10 US patents in organic chemicals from working at those companies. Around 2000, 2001, by then, most of the research in chemistry had left Chicagoland. So that's when I started teaching and consulting, which I still do. I've been teaching at ECC since, wow, 2001. Time flies when you're having fun. And I've been teaching Chem 170 here exclusively since 2007. So have I taught it a few times? Yes. All right. That's a little about me. Another important thing, if we were face to face, you'd see I'd have my hearing aids in because my hearing isn't that good. But because I have above my monitor on a shelf two big amplified speakers, I don't need them right now. However, if you on Zoom meeting talk with an accent or talk softly with an accent, I'll probably have trouble sometimes hearing you. In that case, please be patient if I ask you to repeat something once or twice. Now, one of the most important things I will teach you tonight, and listen carefully, in my class, in my world, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I'll say it again. In my class, in my world, my universe, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I didn't learn that until my third year in grad school when I was presenting something in my research group. We had a postdoctoral fellow. Postdoctoral fellow, somebody already has a PhD, hasn't found a job yet, goes works for another professor, makes some money until you find a job. I did that. You go to another school from the school you got your PhD. And we had a great postdoc, Dr. Larry Flavin. I still remember him. Great guy. Very smart person, too. And I was giving a talk. And during my talk, he asked me a question. Could you show me? It's called the mechanism of a certain key reaction. And I did. And afterward, I went up to him and said, Larry, weren't you embarrassed? That mechanism we teach undergrad chem majors and even pre-med students who take chemistry know that. He said, why should I be embarrassed? I didn't know it. You showed me it. Now I know it. At that time, it started sinking into my mind. You should never be afraid to ask questions. And in my class, that's quite true. Even not in my class, there's no such thing as a dumb question. All right, let me ask a quick question for those who are here. Give me a thumbs up if you can answer it. How many of you have heard that organic chemistry is really nasty and hard? No one? Oh, okay. Because it's got a bad room. A lot of people think it's real hard, and mainly because it's not taught right. I teach it correctly. How do I know that? How many of you have gone to ratemyprofessor.com and looked me up? You should, and you'll see students like me, which means I'm doing my job right because I'm here to help you learn organic chemistry. And the way I teach it, if you follow what I will recommend you do, usually when I teach my class, like more than usually, like almost always, and people follow what I recommend and tell them they should do, I usually get about 60 to 70% of the class, listen carefully, earn A's, and most of the rest get B's. Yes, I do have people who get C's, D's, and F's, but there's only so much I can help a student. At a certain point, the student has to do it on their own. So this is not that super hard, oh, I'm going to be in pain, organic chemistry. Now, one thing I will tell you right now, you don't know, but my world of organic chemistry is your world of organic chemistry. You just don't know it. But by the end of the semester, you'll find out my world of organic chemistry is your world of organic chemistry, and you'll know all about it. It's a fun, exciting place. I got my to-do list. All right. Now, this class is asynchronous. And almost a year ago, I went from live Zoom lectures, and we actually had to switch to that before COVID. We never had this online. And since 2000, March of 2020, when COVID hit, I've been working on Zoom. So I'm a Zoom expert now. And what I did is I've been a computer power user since about 1985. Yep. And I recorded all my Zoom lectures and posted them on YouTube. And last summer, I set up an asynchronous one, which I'll be doing this summer, and it worked quite well. I also did it this last fall and spring for Chem 170, where you'll be watching videos, and I'll explain that in a little while. Now, I will have on Monday and Wednesdays on Zoom at 6:30 to 7:30 office hours, and I'll be here live. And if you have any questions, stop by. And the nice thing is, you don't have to get in your car and go to ECC. Just gotta go online. Now, if you cannot make it because you're working right now, and some of you might be, contact me. And if you need help, I'll set up a special Zoom meeting to help you out. All right. Now, I should tell you, I teach by my golden rule of teaching. What's that? I don't do to students what I didn't like done to me. And I'll always have that in mind when I interact with students. The other thing, if you haven't talked to me one-on-one, I know from my own personal history, when you're talking to instructor, it's hard to think. And when I'm talking to students, I remember that. All right, let's go to Desire to Learn, which is the computer system that ECC uses, and it goes by the acronym D2L. Now, this semester, and also for many years, I also teach at College of DuPage. Their system is called Blackboard. If I say Blackboard here, I really meant D2L. Over there, I sometimes say D2L. I meant Blackboard. All right, here, once you log into D2L, and I sent out an email, which you should do. By the way, this semester, please check your ECC email daily. I send out stuff, and you should be reading that. Now, here's the front page, and you'll see announcements here. And I also send these announcements out to you as an email. So that way, if you don't go into D2L, at least check your announcements. Now, up here, we have different things. Content, discussions, I don't put anything in there. Assignments, I don't put quizzes here. I'll talk more about. Then here are your grades. Now, for me, it's the grade book. And I don't know if you get a class list, because this is mine. I think you might. But when you log in, if you click on contents, you'll see over here on the left, a table of contents. I have my summer syllabus. If I click on that, now one of the things I've done throughout D2L, and I do it during the semester, I have documents that are available both as a MS Word document and as a PDF file. So if you want to look at it on your phone somewhere or tablet, you don't need Microsoft Word. You can open up the PDF file. Now here I have the student syllabus and something called the signature sheet. And I'll talk about that in a little while. Over here, if you click on Zoom meeting login, here's the link right here. And I've got to change this one. I forgot to, but this is the correct login right here. It's also in my syllabus. I'll have to remember to change this because it's got the old link as just click on link. All right, now if you look over here, I have what's called lectures, my YouTube channel. Yes, didn't you know I'm a YouTube star? Not really, but maybe. And the YouTube schedule, which is also in the syllabus, modules, very important practice problems and practice problem answers. Also, I have how to create a PDF file when you upload a lab or test. And you don't see yet, but later in the semester, you'll see the extra credit. Now, another thing I have here, you notice I'm a few years older than most of you. Boy, was that an understatement. Try a few decades older. And a lot of you don't know about good music, movies, or books. So a couple of years ago, I made a list of my favorite movies, music, and books for you to look at, because those are things you may not know about. By the way, my real claim to fame is when I was in high school here in Chicagoland. I'm from Chicagoland. I lived in the suburbs, Lincolnwood. Now for many, many decades, I've lived in Schaumburg now. But anyways, my claim to fame is I saw Jimi Hendrix live. And if you don't know who Jimi Hendrix is, boy, you're missing a lot of good music, unless you don't like hard rock. I hope you do. But anyways, here we have different things, and we'll talk about that tonight. Now, another important area is assignments. And assignments, let me do something I should have done a minute or two ago. Let me go to student view here. If you click on assignments, you'll see things for you to work on. And I have the signature sheet and I'll talk about, and the first lab, which is due a week from today. And if you click on this melting points, first of all, each of the labs, you'll be just doing the intellectual part of it. I could have, but I didn't. I'm lazy. Have face-to-face labs. And I think it's easier for a lot of you who are working now that with the labs, you will have the same labs I would have handed out if we were face-to-face. I wrote all the labs for Chem 170, and I'll explain that later on. And what I'll do in the YouTube is just like if we were face-to-face, I'll explain the lab. And for this one, you should watch this video near the end. And that will give you all the information. And then you'll have a lab report here where you have to fill out the questions. I will provide the data in there. But it's the same thought process. You're just not mixing some chemicals. I'd rather have you do that, but this allows me to do an asynchronous, which helps a lot of students. And when you're done with the lab, you can add the file, upload it here. And I'll ask you to upload it as a PDF file. Now, if you don't have a scanner, like I have right back up there, I have found out a number of years ago from another faculty member when we first switched to Zoom because of COVID, there's a great app called Cam Scanner and allows you to use any cell phone that can take pictures, which all of them can, and convert things you've written on a piece of paper into a PDF file. Now, if you're going to use Cam Scammer, it's free app, but they try and sell you some extra bells and whistles. Don't spend any money. All you need is the free app of Cam Scammer, and it works quite well. Students of mine have been using that for a long time. Now, throughout the semester, I'll be asking you to watch videos. And if you click on the lecture folder, you'll see like chapter 2 alkanes as both a Word document and a PDF document. All the slides I use in my videos are posted in here. And therefore you can open it up. Let me show you. Let's open up this PDF file right here. And you can see these are the actual slides you'll see in my video. If you want to print them out or go back and look at these, they're here for you to download. Now, another area that's important, I'll talk more about it, are the videos. This is both in the syllabus, which we're going to go through in a little while, and here as a separate either Word document. And here we can make it. The way I have it the first week, you should be watching these videos. And watching those videos is the same as coming to my lectures if we're face-to-face. And like I said, this is the fourth semester I've done this, and the students in the last 3 semesters have done just as well in my course as if we were face-to-face. So it works quite well. Now, another important thing are my practice problems and practice problem answers. Now, one thing, I don't know, I better go back to lectures. D2L is a very old software. And if you go all the way to the bottom of the lectures folders, can everybody see where it says load more? Don't ask me why they couldn't rewrite it so it all shows up where you just scroll down. And a couple of these, you say, well, where was chapter 14? Well, you got to click on load more. Now it loads all the rest. Why they did that, don't know. Other than it's just old software and they never upgraded it well. All right, what I'd like to do now is go through the syllabus. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I will go through important parts of this. This you can download from D2L. I showed you where. If you ever have problems with D2L, email me and I'll help you out. Like I said, I'm still Dr. White. Haven't changed my name or alias. And here's my office phone number, which is really just a voicemail number, and my email address. Here's the YouTube channel again. Here's the office hours link right here. Oh, I made a mistake. This should be, I'm going to have to change this. That should be 6:30 to 7:30. Sorry. Well, looks like tomorrow I'll be uploading a new syllabus. Did I tell you I don't walk on water unless it's frozen? And even then I stay off it. which means I can make mistakes. I don't think I'm perfect. And you just saw I'm telling you the truth. Now, earlier I showed you my email address and my voicemail. The best way to reach me is by email. I check my email twice a day, every day of the week, sometimes more. Now, all my life, I haven't needed a lot of sleep and I'm an early riser. So my first time I check my email is usually about 6 or 7 a.m. And then later in the afternoon or evening, I'll check it again. Sometimes I'll check it 3 times. Now, the voicemail, it says I check it yearly at best. I can't remember the last year I checked it. In other words, I never do. I don't even know what the password is. I'd have to call up for that. So the best way to reach me is email. And at the top here, here's my email. You can also go to the directory of ECC and find it, kwhite@elgin.edu. Now, I'm not going to go through this here. You can read it at your own. We're required to put in the course outline from what's called the active course file, which is submitted to the state for every course at ECC or at every school in Illinois. Same thing with course description outlines. All right, now I've got to change this page number 2. I've got a few mistakes I missed here. Anyways, you'll be given videos to watch, and please watch them. And my exams come almost exclusively from the material I cover in the videos. Let me emphasize, viewing the videos is critical if you want to succeed in Chem 170. Let me tell you something quick about my test. Every question on my test, I'll talk about the concept at least twice, usually a lot more in those videos. So be sure to watch the videos. They will help you. That's the same as me telling you, come to my lectures. They will help you. And those videos are my lectures. There's a part about academic integrity. Please don't cheat. Behavior, well, since you're not really, but it talks about cheating again. Please don't cheat. Here, we're required to put a lot of things in here. I'll let you read at your own leisure. Emergency closing information. If you are a special needs student, please contact me and privately. I have always supported the Learning Center and who support special needs students. So if you need any special need, let me know. And the rest of this resources, I'm required to all faculty to put that in there. I'll let you read that at your leisure. All right, let's get the important thing. Remember, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I was a student too. And how do you get a good grade in this class? Well, first of all, there are going to be 4 tests, and they're our exams. And here are the tentative dates. The reason I say tentative, and usually I keep to the schedule, if something happens where I feel students should need extra time, I'll do that. But since I've taught this class many times during the summer, I know these dates by a certain time each week of the semester work well. So these will be there. Now, one thing about tests, I will put in the assignment area of D2L the tests as a PDF file that's password protected. On the day, and usually it's 8 a.m. of the test, and usually it'll be Thursdays. I think those are all Thursdays. I will send out an email to all of you with the password. You'll download that PDF file and open it up so you can download it with the password. Now, since some of you work and this is asynchronous, all my tests will be, you'll have from Thursday morning when I send it out until Friday, 8 p.m. to take the test at home. It's the honor system. And trust me, I know when students cheat, even if they take tests at home. I've been doing this enough years to know that. And I put things in my test to catch people doing that. Unfortunately, it works. Please don't cheat. And you'll have until 8 p.m. Friday the next day to take the test. Between that time frame, I say take a couple hours if you need it. You shouldn't. I write my tests, so if we were face to face and I have 50 minutes to give a test, most students should be done in about 35, 40 minutes. Remember my golden rule, don't do to students what I didn't like done to me. I didn't like taking a test where only the best student, me, is the only one who finishes it. And the rest of them are still trying to finish when time's up. That's not fair. That's not anything I do. If you watch the videos and do the practice problems, you should do well on all my tests. And if you don't have a printer, which some of you may not and don't have access to a printer, you could have the questions on you in front of a monitor of your computer or your tablet or even your cell phone. And then on a piece of paper, just write down your answers, like question 1, your answer. You don't have to write down the questions, and then scan it. If you don't have a scanner, use CAM scanner and your cell phone, and then you can upload your test. Now, there'll be 4 tests, and there'll be some extra credit at the end of the semester. We'll also be doing, you'll be doing 13 labs. Now, the way it works is, of the 4 tests, I will take the 3 highest test scores and add them together. We'll also have a comprehensive final exam. And then there'll be 13 labs, and I'll take the top 12 labs. Each lab is worth 11 points. And that adds up to 630 points. Now, for you, a student's percentage, let me make it a little larger so you can see it, will be the sum of the 3 highest tests, the final exam points, your lab total, and the optional extra credit, which is usually 10 points, multiplied by 100, divided by, this should be 630. And you'll get a percentage. If your percentage is 90 or above, you get an A, 80 to 89 B, 70 to 79 C, D 60 to 69, less than 60, 59 or less, and F. Let me tell you, as I said earlier, if you follow my suggestions, watch the videos, do the practice problems, come to me if you have help, and my students do that, I expect this class, about 70% should earn A's, because you got to do the work to earn it, and the remainder are mostly B's and maybe a C, hopefully no D or F's. Because I'll be very honest, it gives me no pleasure to see students not do well in my class. I really feel much better when I see students do well. And that's the grading system. Now, I have in here the withdrawal. Rarely do students withdraw from my class. The only exceptions I could think of is due to illness, pregnancy, or they get a job outside of the area when we're face to face. If you need an incomplete due to some reason, I give those. All right, now if we look on page 14, you'll see the schedule for this semester. Now, one of the things I zoom by, let me go back and find it. Somewhere here, I'll have to look for it later, or you can look for it. The book, which is optional, don't buy it, is Organic Chemistry by Hart and other authors. The original Hart, this is his son, was a professor at Michigan State. I don't know if he's still alive or not. And I knew him. He was not my advisor, but he is or was a very good, outstanding organic chemist. In addition to making this, which was a quite successful book, a lot of schools use this. Now, a number of years ago, because I have extra copies I get from the publisher, I would ask students, first of all, how many are reading the book? And in one class, the first time I asked that, out of 24 students, one person raised their hand. I said, oh, that's not good. So I looked at the test scores, and they're really good. On a 100 points test, my test scores, classes, usually about 88 to 92 or higher. And I said, well, I must be doing something right. They don't have to read the book. And that's because my lectures, which you'll see in the videos, are very thorough. And it happened more than once at the beginning of a semester when we're face to face. I tell students, if you can't afford to buy the book, which is still optional, I have extra copies, I'll loan it to you. Now, I usually have 3 or 4 students borrow them, and a week and a half, 2 weeks later, they bring it back. We don't need the book because your lectures teach us what's in the book. So it's optional. Now, here's the schedule. And this is what I've done a number of summers, both face-to-face and last summer. And these are the chapters we'll cover. Here's where we have the test. Now, one thing, if you notice, the week of each test, which are on Thursday, the Tuesday before, I will do a live review on Zoom. That's optional. And then I'll post it in my YouTube channel. So if you can't make it to the review, you can still watch it sometime by the next morning at the latest, Wednesday morning, usually late Tuesday night. I'll have it available for you. And here's the schedule. Remember, watch these. These are like you going to my lectures. And here's the URL for each one. You'll see a handsome guy giving some great lectures. Ego, my ego is showing. All right, now, this summer, all the labs will be on, I have Zoom meetings, but by watching it on the videos. And you'll have 13 labs. I will take the top 11 or top 12 and use that to calculate your lab total. Here's the schedule. Labs are due the following lab period, which I do Monday and Wednesday. So I've already posted it so you can get started if you want to. Lab experiment 1. Watch the video, download the lab, answer the questions, upload it, and then I grade it and I'll give you your scores back. And like I said, the labs can be found in the assignment area of D2L. Now I have something called the student agreement. And let's go back to D2L. If we go to the assignment area, it's also called the signature sheet. Now, if I open up the PDF file, this is a contract between you and me. And I first learned about this because faculty were doing this. I learned about it when I first started at ECC. And what I like you to do, print this out. I think you all have access at least one time to a printer, either at ECC or a local library. If you don't have your own printer, print your name and then sign it and date it. And then you'll upload it as a PDF file to the assignment area. If you don't have this uploaded before test number 1, you'll get a 0 for test number 1. In other words, I want everybody to fill it out, upload it. You got plenty of time. And that's my syllabus. All right, let's talk about some things, not today, but later in the week or early next week. Years ago, actually, when I also taught Chem 112 here at ECC, I've taught a number of different chemistry courses, including Chem 170. I had a student who had bad test anxiety. Mackenzie just asked if she has an iPad, if you can fill it out and sign your name, go right ahead. That works for me. But anyways, I had a student who had, you're welcome, had bad test anxiety. And one of the things I've been very lucky is in an emergency, I can solve a problem very quick. One time in a chemical plant, that saved my life and a lot of other lives when a reaction that was mine started to take off and almost blew up. I was able to stop it. Yes, I survived. But anyways, I came up with a method that eliminates test anxiety. If you get really nervous during a test, this method eliminates it. You still have to study, but it eliminates that. And over the years, students were getting D's, F's, or C's because of test anxiety. They studied, but this harmed them, hurt them badly. Once they learned the method, they got B's and A's, not only in my class, but in other classes. I have a video for that. I have it as a private video on YouTube, and I'll send out the link for you to watch it if you want to. I was just looking at chat to make sure I answered all the questions. All right, that's one thing. The other thing is, how do you do well in my class? And before I do that, I forgot something I should be doing. And you don't have to write this down. This is propane. Propane is CH3, CH2, CH3. Propane is the material in the white cylinders for your barbecue. And it's a liquid under pressure, and it's what you burn to cook food. And I'll be going back to that. So let's talk about how do you get a good grade in here? Well, in order for me to tell you about that, let's talk about bicycles. Bicycles? Yep, bicycles. Let's assume I'm a nice guy, and I am, and I give you the best Blu-ray ever made on how to ride a bicycle. And you have at home or access to, like I have in my family room, a nice Blu-ray player. I've got a 75-inch Sony high-def TV, and you watch that Blu-ray how to ride a bicycle because you don't know how to ride a bicycle. And over the next month, you watch it over and over again in slow motion, frame by frame. And then what happens the first time you get on a bicycle? Boop, you fall off. And with practice, you don't fall off. Organic chemistry and chemistry or any class is the same way. I have practice problems. If you watch the videos and do the practice problems, you'll fall off sometimes in the practice problems. I also have the answers. And in the videos, I go through some of the practice problems. Then you won't fall off on the test. And that's how my students do well, by practicing. Oh, by the way, after test number 1, you'll know why I call them practice problems, because they'll help you practice for tests. All right, now, I think by now I've figured out how many of you were born after 1995? Those of you who are here, could you give me a thumbs up? A couple of you. All right, back in that time, the Chicago Bulls were the best team in the NBA. Why? Because they had some of the top players. Actually, the top player, that was Michael Jordan. At that time, Michael Jordan was the best of the best of the best, the very best player in the NBA. Even today, he's still considered one of the very best players who's ever played. And if you were back then, like me, living in Chicago, every once in a while in the newspaper or in the sports on TV, in the news program, you'd see a report saying Michael Jordan, the first one on the practice court, the last one off in the Chicago Bulls. And he always was. And you'd wonder, why is this guy who's so just the best of the best of the best practicing so much? Because that's how he stayed there, by practice. And therefore, in my class, you should practice. Speaking about practice, propane, don't write it down, is CH3, CH2, CH3. Propane, 3 carbons, C is a carbon atom, and then hydrogens, and that's the structure of propane. And that's the material that you use in your barbecue. Now, if we were face to face now, I'd ask for a show of hands, but I'll ask now, for those of you who are here, give me a thumbs up either with the emoji or your thumb if you have your camera on. How many of you are here because you want to pursue a career in organic chemistry? Raise your hand. How many of you are here because you have an undying love of organic chemistry? You want to get a PhD in there? How many of you are here because someone said you had to take organic chemistry to get into school or a program like nursing? I think most of you. So what does that mean? It means I know you're not here to become organic chemists. And I'm not going to try and convert you to do that. But I will teach you organic chemistry that you'll find is very important in your daily life and to know about. And you'll find out my world of organic chemistry is your world of organic chemistry. Now, if we were in a classroom, I'd have this on the black whiteboard. Propane is still CH3, CH2, CH3. Propane. All right, let's talk about another important area, or not area, and that's the math in my class. First of all, I do not allow students to use a calculator during my test or final. I'll say that again. I do not allow students to use a calculator during my test or final. Why? Because for about the first 2/3 of the class, the math you have to know is how to count up to 10. You also have to know what numbers from 1 to 10 are bigger and smaller than the other numbers. You have to know 7 is greater than 2, or 1 is less than 3. And you have to know how to count up to 10. And that's the only math you have to know for about 2/3 or more of the semester. And about 2/3 or more of the semester gets harder. You also have to know how to count up to 18. And that's the whole math for this class, which is why you don't need a calculator. Speaking about things, this is propane. Propane is CH3, CH2, CH3, and that's the stuff you use in your barbecue. Now, because I was a little miss, normally by this time I would have shown you this about 20 times. I've only done it 3. And you're wondering, what's he doing? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. In my class, I haven't done it enough times now, but you'll see me do it often. In my class, you have to memorize things in organic chemistry, a lot of things. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I found a way to teach students to help them that works better than flashcards. Yep, works better. And that is to write something down on a piece of paper and say it 5 times. Now, so far for propane, I just did it once, but if we were at home, you'd write CH3, CH2, CH3, propane. And if you did it again, CH3, CH2, CH3, propane. And the way this works is you write it down and say it. Now, if you're in a library, say it silently in your head. If you're not in a library, you can say it out loud. And by doing it 5 times, it gets it burned in your brain. And I think if I had done this 20 times, and I've done this face to face, a year later, a student I can ask, do you remember what I wrote on the board? And immediately they'll say propane, or sometimes I'll do butane. And that's how you remember it. Now, I have a photographic memory, which sometimes is good and sometimes is not good, because you'd like to forget things. But I can still remember like it happened 5 minutes ago, a number of years ago. After the first test, when we were face to face, I had 2 students who were friends. They came to me afterward, and the one friend said, I didn't do good on test 1. How can I do better? And I said, the things you had to memorize, did you write them down and say them 5 times? I can still remember her saying, no, that was a lot. That's a lot of work. And her friend who was next to her said, yeah, but I did that and I got an A on the test. And the first student got the message. And the next test, she did real well. And I asked her, what did you do different? Well, the things I had to memorize, I followed your advice and I wrote them down 5 times. And sometimes you may have to come back and do it a second time, a couple more, but it works. Now, since all of you have had chemistry of some sort, I am going to assume you know the following. You know the chemical symbols for hydrogen and the alkali metals sodium lithium, and potassium. I'll never ask those on a test, but I'll use those in class. You should also know the metals nickel, platinum, and palladium. And the most important element in the periodic table is carbon. Then there's nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur. Then the halogens, chlorine, bromine. Also, I should have fluorine there. Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. And that's my periodic table. Now, when I worked in grad school, I used a lot of argon, but I'm not going to use that. You don't use that in my class. Now, am I going to ask you what's the letter C element symbol for? No, but you should know these names and symbols because I'll be using them. And if you're not, go back and review them. But again, H is hydrogen, Na sodium, Li lithium, K potassium. Oh, I just remembered two more. Ca calcium and magnesium. And those are, you should know, and that's the periodic table, really all you need for this class. Now, I could put down gold and silver, but we don't use it in this class. So this is the periodic table. Now, another thing I'll talk a lot during the lecture videos is how many bonds should carbon have? And the answer is and that's because carbon, and this I'll never ask on a test, has 4 valence electrons. And to get to its octet, it needs 4 more. And that's why there's 4 bonds to carbon. Now, throughout my class, you're going to have to be writing structures and doing reactions or finding out what are products of a reaction. You'll have to draw structures. And you'll see in the video, and I'm going to do now, your friend will always be, there's 4 bonds to carbon. Oh, I got to get that finger fixed. 4 bonds to carbon. 4 bonds to carbon. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And whenever you write a structure, each carbon atom should have 4 bonds to it. And when I grade tests, and especially the final, usually a student will make a mistake. You'll see a carbon atom without 4 bonds to it. And immediately I know that's wrong. And my eye tells my hand, mark it wrong. Doesn't even go through my brain. I think twice now, I saw students write down the answer where they had 5, 6, or 7 bonds to carbon. And it took me a couple of minutes to stop laughing. You can't have more or less. It's always 4 bonds to carbon. And you'll see in the videos, I'll remind you that often, because on a test, that will be your friend. Now, another good thing is the organic chemistry I'm teaching you, I will be showing you how you make certain types of molecules doing certain functional groups. Just like if you look over there, I've got a door in my office in my home here. That's what this is. By the way, that's part of my flashlight collection, and that's some of my external hard drives. Yes, I'm a computer nerd. Anyways, if you were to go to anywhere in your home, you'll see a door, and it probably looks a little different than my door. Like even if you go in the front door, my front door looks different there. But I know a door is going one place to another to go through it. It allows you to do that. When organic chemistry, we have collection of atoms that are functional groups and undergo the same type of reactions and have similar physical properties. And that's the way I'll be teaching you, and that's the traditional way of functional group chemistry. And you'll learn that. Now, the good news is organic chemists are lazy. Really, we are. And therefore, when I'm talking about if I react this and this to make this functional group, I'm just interested in what do I make? So in a chemical equation in this class, you'll never be asked to balance a chemical equation. Just give the products. Now that reminds me, I should put down this. It's a chemical equation. A and B are the reactants. But since I spent many decades in the chemical industry, you'll also hear me call them starting materials. I have to remind myself, it's been a couple of years now, I've been doing it to print, not write, because a lot of you can't read cursive. And at the head of the arrow, C is called the product. And that's something you should also know. Now, organic chemists, because we're lazy, sometimes we'll write, and you'll see this in my lectures, this. And when you see something above or below the arrow, that's also the reactants. And this is another way of writing A and B react to make C. And that's something I wanted you to be familiar with. Let's review this again. A and B are the reactants, also called starting materials. C is the product. Now, there can be more than one product. And another way of organic chemists write this is A reacting with B, and we put it above or below the line with the arrow, makes C. Now, sometimes because organic chemists are lazy, and you'll see later in the semester, you might see me write a reaction. A first reacts with B, then reacts with D in a second separate step to make C. Instead of writing it like this, two separate reactions like that, you mix A and B together and get something, then react that new thing with D to make C. I will never write it this way. Like I said, organic chemists are lazy, and we are. Now, the important thing I'd like to remind you is, let me open up two files. In the lecture section of D2L, you'll see a file cleverly named alkanes, IUPAC names and numbers of carbon atoms. You shouldn't, memorize this table. If you don't know this table, you've just lost 50 points out of 100 from test one. You've lost about 30, 40, say 40 points from test 2 and 3. You have to know, well, you don't have to, but I assume you all want to get a good grade. Methane 1 carbon, ethane 2, propane 3, octane 8, decane 10. And you should know this table as well as you know your first name. I'm assuming you all know your first name real well. I hope so. And how do you memorize this? Write down methane and 1 carbon. And do it again. Methane, 1 carbon. Methane, 1 carbon. And then propane, like I did earlier, had 3 carbons, and I showed you the structure. So this table, again, the alkanes IUPAC name. IUPAC, which you do not have to know, stands for International Union Pure Applied Chemistry. It's an organization that came up with the naming of organic compounds. And I discussed that in the initial videos. Now, another file you need to know are called, and again, this is in the lecture section, folder of D2L, key alkyl groups. And these are these structures. CH3 in the line means it's bonded to something. It's called the methyl group. CH3, CH2, ethyl. Then N-propyl, 3 carbons, there's 2 types. And N-butyl, there are actually 3, but one of them I've never used. And after many decades in the chemical industry, you're not going to use it either. So I'm not teaching that, but these 2 I will. Now, through the videos, you'll see me using these, and I'll help you learn these. But if you don't know these names of these alkyl groups, again, test 1, you just lost 50 out of 100 points. Test 2 and 3, you've lost about 40 points out of 100. And the best way to learn this is write down CH3 line and methyl and do that 5 times. And you'll remember it. Same thing with ethyl, N-propyl, isopropyl, N-butyl, and T-butyl. And you'll see later in the videos, I get lazy. Instead of calling it a tert-butyl, organic chemists usually call it a T-butyl. I should tell you, Dr. White loves T-butyl groups and loves isopropyl groups, the other 2. But those 2 have been good to me, and I've been good to them. Now you know I'm an organic chemist. So these are in a file you can download. Let me show you it. Oh. I see why I had problem finding. Again, if you go to contents, scroll down, lectures, and you'll see near the top here, I have 2 different types of files, alkanes, IUPAC names and carbon numbers, and key alkyl groups. You need, well, you don't need to, but if you want to get a good grade, you need to memorize those as soon as possible. Now, a couple of summers ago, second time I taught Chem 170 online like this, and it was a face-to-face synchronous on Zoom. The registrar made a mistake, and by the time I caught it, I was told you can't change it. And instead of it being an 8-week course, they put it down as a 7-week course. What a mistake. The students now had to learn it in a shorter period. And amazingly, those students did well. Now, that's the videos I'm using. Now, on my YouTube channel, I have a couple semesters. So if you want to binge watch me do the same thing, I'm pretty consistent. Now, if you look at the videos for the summer that I'm using in this class, it starts in week 1. And it ends in week 7. You say, what's going on? And that's because the registrar made that awful mistake that I wasn't allowed to correct. Who's that chemist on there? It's me. But anyways, what I've done is in the syllabus, and also here, you see the titles, but over here where it says week 1, that's week 1, and some of it carries over. Week 2 here is also week 3 this semester. And you'll see the very end, our week 8 is week 7 in the video, the titles. And that's because they compressed it, and I did it, and this class pulled it off. But now you've got an extra week because I made sure as soon as they posted it, before any of you registered, that it was correct. In fact, I emailed the registrar, don't make that mistake. And luckily they didn't. So I just wanted to let you know about that discrepancy. The title names will only go to week 7. What I did was I had longer Zoom meetings to cover all the material so the students would do well. But the same face-to-face time they got in 7 weeks, you'll get in 8 weeks. All right, let me remind you, do watch the videos, do the practice problems, things you have to memorize, write down 5 or 6 times and say it out loud. It works better than flashcards. I've told many students who are having trouble with flashcards, as soon as they went to this method, it worked for them. Now, listen carefully. I'm here to help you get the best grade you're willing to work for. I have my videos, and I'll be available in my office hours if you need help, or if you can't make it to my office hours, contact me by email, and I'll set up a Zoom meeting so I can help you, because it makes me feel much, much better to see students succeed than not succeed. I don't know if I told you, in a certain way, I'm a very selfish person. And that way is, I like things to happen around me that make me happy. And seeing students succeed make me happy. That's why I will always help any student to succeed in my class. And with that, I think I'm done, but let me explain one more thing. This is a personal thing, and you'll find out in the videos. I'm Jewish. And one of the greatest women people I've ever met in my life was my mother's mother, Grandma Greenman, Bessie Greenman. what a great, powerful woman. And when we were little, and I know some Yiddish, and she would say in Yiddish to us when we would leave her, we'd visit her, my grandparents on the weekend. My father worked during the week, my mother did too. So we'd visit them, and also my other father's grandparent. Those grandparents were very nice, but this woman was phenomenal. And before we would leave, she would always say, "Geh and gesund." And "Geh and gesund" in Yiddish means go in health. And once the pandemic started and I started doing in Zoom, I started saying "Geh and gesund" at the end of my lectures. And anytime I'm with students, I'll say that because COVID's still out there and other nasty things. And this is something I started and I think I'll keep on doing. The other thing I do is I stole something from the TV show Beverly Hillbillies. That was a very famous show when I was in high school. And Granny, at the end of the show, used to wave like this, "Goodbye." And I steal that. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. But if any of you have any questions, I'll stick around for a little while. Also turn off the recording. And later tonight, this will be posted on my YouTube channel. I'll send out a link, an email with a link. But with that, I'll say, "Gang gesund." Bye now. Stole that from Granny to Beverly Hillbillies. Bye now.